Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're doing another tier list, and this time it's the only genre that ever matters, according to Nick Nocturnal. It's metalcore. And today I am joined with two other people, Kyle and Tommy.
Hello.
Swag God Messiah.
And yeah, so pretty much the genre as a whole, I think it's a either very strong hit for me or a very strong miss for me. Um, I know for Tommy it's his favorite genre. I'm not sure about how Kyle feels about it.
Pretty solid.
So if you couldn't tell, we have a mixed bag of like some older stuff and some very obvious like modern stuff. I think over half of these are metalcore, but there are definitely a good chunk of them that sound way different. So without further ado, let's just randomly select one, and I'm gonna do the selection how I did with the metal death one is just randomly wave my mouse around until I click on one. Okay, we got perseverance first. So let me pull up my notes, and for those of you, I did have good notes for these, but I lost a lot of data in my phone because I was a fucking retard. So anyway, what do I think about Perseverance? So to go through some of the tracks, I think Proven is baller. I think the breakdown that song is fucking awesome, and the title track also like kicks you in the nuts. I do like how I think I'm not quite familiar because I've only heard this album with Hatebreed, but I think like most of their lyrics like focus on like very uplifting things. And I think the production on this is fucking awesome. Like the guitar tone is beefy as fuck. My only problem with this album is that as you get like further and further into it, it starts to sound like samey and some of the songs blend together. But other than that, I think this is a good album. That's all I have.
I really don't have anything else different to say about it. I pretty much have the same opinion about it. I think it's a really hard hitter, and it's a little nostalgic for me. But I do agree it gets a little repetitive. But I think the how hard it hits just makes up for it. I really like the guitar tone and the hard hitting drums of the album.
Alright, swag. So I'm gonna say this probably more than once. I think this album fucking peak. I think especially in looking at Hatebreed, it's Hatebreed's best in my opinion, and their earlier work kinda leads up to it and like peaks at it. But I think nineties metalcore in general, like it builds up and then it comes into the 2000s and Perseverance is like where that peaks, like fucking Converge, Earth Crisis, Botch, Zao, Integrity, all those bands, like they walked so Perseverance could run. I don't have anything. It's like not a unique album at all, but it just does what it does the best. I think Josta has some really good lyricism. I think the production is really good, especially for '03. A lot of metalcore around then is kind of rough around the edges. So this is super well produced. It's like a lot of people don't like it because it's more commercial than some of Hatebreed's earlier stuff. But I don't know. It punches pretty hard to me. Um, I think I will be heard. Perseverance. We still fight. Blood-soaked memories and Judgment Strikes are the best on the album. I don't really have anything else to say. I think it's the best at what it does.
All right, cool. So for me personally, I would put this in A tier. But I know Tommy would probably put this in S tier. What about you, Kyle?
I would probably put it in A tier too.
Okay, what are you thinking, Tommy?
No compromise. I can go high A tier.
Okay, the high A tier, low S tier is where this is at right now. Next up, we got. Okay, cool. Um, please pardon my retardation because I can't pronounce the fucking simple words. This is retaliate, I think. And we originally had two other people in this, and so this is one of the. Is this one? No. Did Kyle?
It's
Did you?
Kyle's.
Okay. Um, can't wait the. Okay. So, to start, Heaven's Blood Can Wait. I think is a solid opener. I really like the end riff of that one. The title track is pretty straightforward. Nothing really too stand out about it. Um, Forever Lost is pretty good too. I like Babylon Prevails riff quite a bit. Even though even though like the Babylon Prevails is kind of like a 2.5 minute instrumental. Overall, I think this is just like a solid album, but as it go like Perseverance, as it goes on, it feels kind of samey. Um, I feel like this is one of those albums where it's better to like put like these songs in like a playlist rather than just listening to the entire thing. Um, and I really like the vocals on this one, and that's all I have.
So, since I chose this one because I kind of wanted to get it out there a little more. I really enjoy like the dual vocals that he has, which mixes like a hardcore and then like a little bit of death metal in there. I don't really have too much more to say about this. I just think it's a nice heavy hitter, and that's pretty much all.
Okay, so I think this album isn't like special to me at all. I like it. It's good at what it does. It comes really late on like the tail end of H8000. But that being said, I think since it has so much to build upon from that scene, I think especially for being such a smaller band, um, comes from that's that same Belgian scene with like Archangel and Congress and Sector and Deformity, all those. So it's pretty late into that scene, but because of that, I think it has the benefit of being able to pull lots of influences in and make more of a deathcore album than a metalcore album, but without losing the metalcore parts. I agree with Aaron. I think Babylon Prevails is like super dope. I also like Heaven's Blood Can Wait a lot. I don't have a ton to say about it in terms of like how it actually sounds. I also do like the dual vocals; they're kind of dope. I think "Claim Your Price" is my favorite on the album, though, and that's all I got.
Okay. Since Kyle, where would you put this since you're the one that wrecked it?
Well, even though I chose it, I don't really have a special connection to it. I probably do like a high B tier.
Yeah. What about you, Tommy? Are you doing high
I'm
B?
feeling
Doing a
more
B tier?
low A, but I'll take high B.
Okay. Yeah. Because I don't think it's on the same level as Perseverance, to be honest.
No.
All right. Next up, we got. Oh, we got
All right,
we got the Alpha Wolf. So let me find
don't
my.
break my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where is it? Um, I think I wrote down notes for pretty much every track. So that's
He just wrote sloth in like 80.
yeah. So I did try to find like spoiler alert. Well, Alpha Wolf, that type of metalcore I'm not a fan of, but let's just get into my notes. I think the title track has like a cool bouncy rhythm, I guess. Creep, but like overall the title track, it doesn't really do much for me. Creep, just like the previous track, the instrumental doesn't do much for me. The chorus is decent. Golden Fate, the main riff is okay. Otherwise, meh. Uh, I think it's Akudama. It's a decent.
Akudama.
Akudama. Okay. It's a decent track. I like some moments in the song, but like the guitar like laser noises do get on my nerves sometimes. Acid Romance is pretty boring. I'm not a fan of this one. Rotten Pieces, same with Acid Romance, pretty boring. Bleed for You, I actually really enjoy this song. I love the chorus. I love the melody of the chorus. And the guitars are in a rhythm that is actually like fun for me. And there are also some good riffs on the song too. Um, the vocals like at some point in the chorus remind me of Gojira, like Joe's like yell slash scream hybrid. That's all I have for that track. Ultra Violet Violence has a fun bouncy section, but that's about it for me. The mind bends. Nothing really interesting here for me. Restricted has a riff around the 1 minute mark that is cool. Otherwise, I don't really get anything from this. just like the last couple tracks. Um, don't ask. I respect the atmosphere that this track is going for. Other than that, there's nothing that I would come back to and sit down and listen to on my own. Overall, I fully get the appeal of this sound and what this album is going for, but it is not for me at all because like this sound, if it's not done in a specific way, it just feels super dull and boring for me, and that's all I have.
I usually don't enjoy this kind of metalcore, but I saw these guys live and they really kicked ass, so I'm gonna have to give them the edge for that, even though it has nothing to really do with the album. But for the album in general, like I really liked Creep. I thought it sounded really cool. It was kind of like it reminded me of like a horror movie. I don't know. And I did quite enjoy the vocals and the straight just heaviness of the album. I do like the first half of it a little bit more than the second half. I think that's where I kind of like just get a little bored, you know? And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
So, it's my second time in this video. This is peak for Australian metalcore, I think. I think every other band that did this style walked. I mean, including Alpha Wolf in their early career. Everyone else walked so that Quiet Place to Die could run. I think this is one of the best produced metalcore albums. Like, period, end of story. I think Sabian Lynch is a great riff writer, and I think Loki is like a monstrous vocalist. And seeing this band live a couple times helped like that really helped the vocals click for me. I didn't used to like him a ton, but like nowadays I look at him and I'm like that's impressive as hell. Um, Title track is fine. Definitely feels like an intro. I don't like it a ton, but then Creep Creep is amazing. Creep has some good call outs. Creep has that one pre-chorus moment that's really cool. Akudama is like a top 10 song all time for me. I think like it's one of the catchiest songs I've ever heard. And that's a theme through the whole album that I really like is in every single song, with the exception of Mind Bends to a Will of Its Own, I could tell you something about all of them. Like there's something that gets stuck in my head from all of them. Mainly the call outs a lot of the time. Creep, Akudama, Acid Romance, Rotten Pieces, Bleed for You, Ultraviolet Violence are all songs that have really good vocal lines that stick with you, which takes me back to Loki being such a good vocalist. Is he's also really good at writing catchy hooks and stuff that gets stuck in your mind. Um, then Don't Ask, I think, is one of the most complete songs that this band's ever written. It's a full product, more so than the other songs. Because the other songs all have kind of one thing they're going for, but Don't Ask kind of brings it through that full circle. And I agree with what Aaron said about Bleed for You as well. I think that's a really good track, and I think the vocals in the chorus are really nice. Um, but yeah, just generally, I think this is like the best metalcore album to come out of this scene. I don't think anything's gonna touch it for a while, including this band. I think they kind of struck gold with this one, caught lightning in a bottle. That's all I got.
All right, so this is gonna be interesting because, well, first Kyle, where would you place this?
Yeah, I don't hate the album, but I would put it in like a high C. That's just for me.
I would put it in C two, but for Tommy, I know he would. Would you put this in S, Tommy?
Yeah, this is a hard S tier for me.
All right, would you settle for high B tier over Retaliate?
Yeah, over Retaliate. I'll settle for high B. That's cool.
Okay, cool. All right, next up we got Gaijin, or however you say it.
Gaijin.
Gaijin. All right.
It means foreigner in Japanese.
This one is probably gonna be my shortest. My shortest, because like I said, I had shit written, but it was all gone. So, okay, in my opinion, this is more like hardcore slash hardcore beatdown, like metalcore type of stuff. I think the production on this is a slapper. I love it. I do think the if I do think I would like this more if the vocals were different. Um, just because it reminds me of like it kind of reminds me of like the Australian metalcore scene, and I'm not really a huge fan of like how their vocals sound. But otherwise it's good. The gutturals are fucking amazing. I do like how they slide like the slam riff into scope that slides. I think that's pretty cool. But other than that, yeah, that's all I have.
So I think this little EP is it's a pretty hard hitter. I like the song lengths; they're just short and sweet. And I really don't have too much to say about it. I'm not too big of a fan of like the little rap sections, but I think the vocals overall are pretty good, and I really do like the guitar riffs. This is like my kind of this is the style of like this kind of stuff that I would like with like the more beat down slam kind of riffs, and that's all I gotta say about that.
I don't think this is Gaijin's best release. I think Third Impact clears GRG pretty hard. But that being said, like Aaron said about the production, this album is produced beautifully. I just generally think Gaijin is the best beatdown band out right now. I think they're absolutely killing it, and they keep one upping their previous releases. They're on a come up. I'm really excited for that because that means they're gonna finally make it out of Florida and maybe get their ass to the Midwest. But I don't have a ton. I don't have a ton to say about this. I like the rap sections. I think that's something that's been kind of lost in modern beatdown a little bit. Got something from the '90s and early 2000s, like fucking 25 to Life and shit like that, that had lots of hip hop influence and fucking No Retreat, bands like that. Like that kind of gets lost on the modern scene a little bit, and a lot of bands nowadays kind of focus on just pounding you in the face and forget about the hip hop aspects. But I think Gaijin doesn't forget that, and I think they do carry the more modern slam influences with them like extremely well. So I just overall think this is like not peak beatdown, but it's pretty high up there. That's all I got.
All right, I would put this in A tier. What about you guys?
I'd personally say S, but A's cool for me.
What about you, Kyle?
I'd probably do like high B, but A, I'd set it on A, yeah.
I want to put it. I want to put it like that, because
Okay.
because I would probably put this in S, because it is a fat banger. But yeah. All right. So next up we got Jane Doe. Okay, cool. This is basically I'll get to it, but this is basically like one of the most popular metalcore albums ever. Um, so here we go. Basically, the intro track starts out with a dissonant groove fest. It's a pretty sick opener. The next few tracks were decent. Hell to Pay has got to be one of the most fun tracks off this album. I love the bass line of this. Overall very enjoyable. Homewrecker is pretty good too. Back at it again with there's a cowbell in that track. Broken Vow is a face puncher. I don't know if it's just me, but the production on that song in general seems different than the rest of the tracks before it. I like the atmosphere in Heaven in Her Arms. Phoenix in Flight is cool. Nothing much else to it though. Phoenix in Flames just sounds like a straight demo that somehow made it onto the album. Thought is pretty good as well. Sick riffs all around. I think Thal is good for the first half, but kind of drags in the last half. Overall, I think this is a good album, but I wouldn't put it at like peak metalcore of all time. And that's all I have.
Oh man, I fucking love this album so much. This is like one of the albums that I just listened to while hitting a workout. Concubine, I think, just sounds awesome with that cool intro, and then it hits hard with like a kind of like a with the harmonics of it. I just fucking love that. I love that. And then yeah, Homewrecker, I really love. I think that's just it's more of like a for me, it's kind of like a more hardcore-ish kind of song. And I think this band overall kind of brought something a little bit more new to the um 90s and 2000s metalcore scene with like the more high-pitched vocals. The title track is pretty interesting. I don't think it needs to be that long, but that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a steaming hot take to say this album is overrated, but this album is overrated as hell. It's kind of like the metalcore album to a lot of people. Personally, I think Botch does Converge, but way better. And Botch, at least to me, from what I see, is kind of seen as like Jane Doe's like little, slightly less cool brother. I think Botch does everything Converge does, but a million times better, which makes Jane Doe a little bit obsolete to me. Um, that being said, it is a decent album. I like a lot of it. I love Homewrecker. I think the production switch up on that transition from Phoenix and Flight to Phoenix and Flames, I think that's kind of dope. I know it doesn't like get to a lot of people, but Phoenix and Flight is like super sludgy, and then Phoenix and Flames is super grindy and noisy. It kind of like has a nice contrast there. Thaw, I love Thaw. That's a really fun track. But I think a lot of the chaos in this album is just lost in the production because the production's fine, but I feel with mathcore you almost have to have a more clean style production. I respect this album for what it did and what it influenced. I think modern day bands like Chamber kind of carry this band's torch pretty well, but I think it's overrated overall. If I had to pick one track to go listen, like for you to listen to, I'd say listen to Distance and Meaning. It's a pretty good one. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, where would you guys place this?
B.
I would probably do S.
S. Since I would put it in A tier. I think I'm gonna do it at the bottom of A tier.
Okay.
That good for you, Kyle?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, next up we got Day of Suffering. Cool. All right, I did not write any notes for this because this is one of like the old metalcore that like it blew me away when I first heard it. Going back to it, it doesn't really have that same like blow me away feeling anymore, but it's still like super plummeting. Like, all right, like Internal Jihad, the title track, fucking awesome riffs, and like I like to mention that there are straight like death metal riffs on this thing, and it's awesome. I love the vocals. I love like the production of this. In Visualize Industrial Collapse, like when he screams that just gets stuck in my head all the time when I hear it. Um, this album has no duds to me. I would probably own it if I saw it at a record store. But yeah, I love this album. That's all I have.
Oh man, I also just favor this album. This is probably like a top 3 metalcore album overall for me. I love the hardcore anger and then just the mix of like death metal and thrash metal riffs in it. And I really like the cool melodic breaks that it has. I think it really adds some character to the album from just like the pure aggression it has. Shades of Red, I think just has like it's probably my favorite on the track. It's just overall a heavy banger. And I absolutely love the production on this album. I think it sounds really gritty but not too dirty. It's pretty clean. And I really like the drum sound, especially the snare sound. The snare sound, this has got to be like one of my favorite sounding drum sounds for this album. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Um, I think you could tell that when Day of Suffering recorded Eternal Jihad, they had been listening to a lot of Belgian shit. I heard this the first time. I thought for sure it was out of Belgium, but it's like North Carolina or some shit like that. I think this is really good. I think it wears its influences extremely well. I hear a lot of Deformity and a lot of fucking Congress in this one, but a lot of Deformity, and I really like that. This album was recorded in like a short amount of time. I think only like 3 or 4 months is what I read. So it's an impressive, especially for '90s when you have to go into a studio and you have to record in the studio and you can't just slop away at it at home. I think this is really impressively done for the time and for like no budget as well. Visualize Industrial Collapse is one of my favorites on it. I also really like Elegy. I like that main riff. Like, I think that's the best riff on the album. Is that first riff in the very beginning? It's like like that's deep. That's deep. I love that little run at the end, kind of like death metal-y, almost like tech death a little bit.
Yeah, it's fucking baller.
But yeah, I really like this album. That's all I got.
Yeah, I would put this in S.
Yes, yeah.
I'd personally say higher A, but I'm cool with S.
Okay, sweet. Fucking awesome. Alright, next up we got Archangel. Cool. Okay, this is Dead Man Walking by Archangel. This is the first time I've ever heard this. Well, the first time I went back and listened to it. Heaven We Fall. It's pretty good. The galloping riff reminds me of the riff from Backbone by Gojira. Weirdly enough, I think the production is sick. Written in Black is a swag ass song. While I do think this album is good all the way through, especially the breakdown in Embrace of Truth, I do think this one is a little weaker compared to like Day of Suffering and stuff like that. I have seen people talk about this before, and I've never heard it besides like when we were doing this. But in like terms of like old metalcore, I'm not sure if like I'll return to it as much as like Day of Suffering and I forget the other one. But because it doesn't really keep me engaged all the way through. But I do think it's a solid album. But so that's all I have.
So I think I chose this album. I believe I think I picked it because more people were familiar with it. It's actually not my favorite from them. Hope You Die by Overdose is my favorite from them. I definitely liked this album more when I first heard it. I think like Harbinger of Doom is a pretty catchy track. There's like a lot of people would call this Slayercore, which I think is kind of a stupid term. It's got great riffs with its like thrash metal influence, but it's just not as heavy as some of their other work or some of the other bands, and that's all I gotta say about it.
Yeah, speaking of Belgium with the last one, it's more from the Belgium scene. Just kind of shows how influential that was. I think Archangel is one of the more overrated bands out of H8000. I don't like the thrashier style quite as much. They have some good riffs, but it's almost one of those bands where I feel like people decide what genre they are based on what bands they hung out with when they came out. There's definitely some bands like that. Like a lot of people see Sanguisugabog as more of a slam band, or like Peeling Flesh is more of a hardcore band, just because like that's the scene that they came up with and who they played with on their way up. So I feel like Archangel is almost like, so people see them as that, but I don't really see the parallels in sound a lot. They have some pretty good thrash. They have some pretty okay metalcore riffs. They definitely shine a lot more when they're playing their more thrashy stuff. I don't think they were great at writing metalcore, but that being for me, so I think this band shared members with the band Length of Time, who I think is way better and did this style way better. So go listen to them.
Low A, high B tier.
I probably do a low B tier. I just think the heaviness got lost in the riffs.
All right. We'll put it between here then. All right. Let's get her going. Okay. Cool. Trivium. To Inferno. Okay. So, Pillars of Serpents is like a combo of like heavy groove metal and melodeath. I really enjoy that one. The I'm Alive, like when he screams I'm alive, it gets stuck in my head for the longest time when I listen to this. If I could collapse the masses is a banger, sick riffs and great chorus. Fugue has a sick chorus too. The main riff I've definitely heard somewhere in the Flame song. Great song overall. Requiem is baller too. One of the songs that just scream 90s melodeath to me in that style. Well, the title track is fun too. The chorus is fun. Ashes, the interlude. I don't know about anyone else, but the quality of that interlude just sounds so bad. Um, To Burn the Eye has a fun galloping riff, with a sick breakdown in the second half. Falling to Gray is another one of these super metal death inspired songs. Pretty solid. My Hatred is pretty much a groove track. The bass kind of sounds weird in like the first part where they go up in the higher notes. Um, when All Light Dies is solid, but it's also one of the weaker ones in my opinion. I really like the bass drum sound on this album. I like the production on this album overall. Um, I think I think this is one of Trivium's most underrated albums as well. Um, but yeah, that's all I have.
Man, no, this is not Trivium's worst album. This is probably one of their fucking best albums. I think it does a great mix of melodic death metal, yeah, and metalcore with great grooves in there. My favorite track is definitely the title track. I love that intro, man. That intro, like the melodic riff mixed with like the fast thrash. I love that double bass in it. Um, I know a lot of people really like Alex Bent, but man, I also love Travis a lot. I think his drumming was really unique. He kind of had his own style that he added there with like more of like using the toms a lot more. And yeah, I just think it's a really fucking good album, and that's all I gotta say about it.
Yeah, I think Trivium peaked early. I think this is their best. I think in the Court of the Dragon and in Waves and What the Dead Men Say come kind of close. But I really think Embers to Inferno is like their magnum opus. Like Aaron said, kind of some In Flamesy riffs. I think like a lot of these bands, they wear their influence well. I think I think Matt's cleans in this are his best ever. I don't know what it is about him. Like they're probably not objectively his best singing vocals, but I really like him. I like the production on it. The interludes are produced like trash for literally no reason. Um, it's just the riffing for me. And if I could collapse the masses is like such a good track. I like the choruses. It sounds like I don't even know how to describe it. They're just kind of like soaring like power metal type choruses in a lot of them. I like Matt's screams early on too. Kind of sounds like Silverstein or some shit like that. But yeah, that's all I got. I think this is a really good album.
Cool. I'd put this in S tier. That's where I have it in my Trivium ranking too.
I probably
Yeah.
do.
All right. Next up, we got cool. Bleeding Through. This album all the way through has awesome riffs. Bangers like Our Enemies, Wake of Orion. I think it's Isle Part Two. I Dream of July. I enjoy the M Shadows feature in Savior's Saint and Salvation. I think he does really good. The synth does sound kind of cheap on here, but it doesn't really hinder my enjoyment at all. I do like how it's. I do wish it was a little quieter. There's another album that has a synth that. There's another album that has a synth on here that it's not too like loud or anything and doesn't hinder my enjoyment, but we'll get to that. And I like how this album is not afraid to get intense either. I like the brutality sometimes, and I think it's a really good album. That's all I have to say.
I think this album is quite unique for the stuff that they did on it, especially adding the synths. The synths are cheap sounding, but I actually really like them for some reason. That's just me. The vocals I fucking love. They're really nice and aggressive. Um, a lot of the songs they just head straight into it, like Portrait of the Goddess and Rise. I love the production. It's pretty gritty. It's not too clean, and I really love the sound of the blast beats. I think that's a good thing for this album for me, and that's pretty much all I gotta say.
Um, I overall enjoy this album. Um, there's some flaws in it that make me kind of upset because I think this could have been a excellent top tier album, but it just kind of misses on a couple important marks for me. I think the riffing is the highlight. I really like the heavier sections. I think they should have leaned into the deathcore a little more. The vocals are fine to me. They're not great. They're kind of whatever. I wrote in my notes. I don't know what I was talking about. I wrote discount Matt Heafy here. Uh, sure. Um, my main gripe is this synth sounds like fucking dog ass, dude. Like, I'd be listening to a song and I got really into something, and then I hear it just like in the background. I'm like, this adds nothing, and this sample is like a horrible sound. Like I have like cheap Yamaha keyboard sitting next to me, and I really think it's like the exact same sample library. Like it's not. It's like Doom MIDI tier fucking synth samples. So that's my main gripe. I think if they drop that and they lean into the heavier aspect, this could be an S tier album. But for me, it's just kind of decent. That's all I got.
Um, I'd probably put this in low S, high A tier.
I'd probably do S.
I think
I'm gonna go high
wait,
B.
you said high B.
I want high. Yeah, mid to low B.
Alright, so the compromise, since me and Kyle both have this like an S tier, and Tommy would have it lower. I think we could have it below Hatebreed and above Converge.
Yeah.
Does that seem cool for you, Tommy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Alright, next up we got. Oh, cool! Another one I wanted to get to. Okay, so I said before when we started recording that there are going to be a couple surprises because this is one that Tommy picked. I think the opening track is great, solid start. Great riffs. I think Old Data is good too. Rebirth Protocol has a pretty sick groove. Broken Class is cool as well. I think the reason I like this so far is because they take elements of metalcore I normally do not like some of the laser noises, and they use it like tastefully. I do think Doom Tech is cool as well. And Eternal is pretty much the and Eternal is pretty much the opposite of using the lasers tastefully. The title track is also a nice pace as well, nice change of pace, pretty melodic, and I think the closer is decent. Overall, I was really surprised to like it as much as I did. But yeah, that's all I have.
So I think Tommy, you gave this to me on an album exchange, and I thought it wasn't great. I think I fucking hated it the first time I listened to it, but man, coming back to this, I actually really liked this album. I thought it did, like Aaron said, I thought it did all the usual things in metalcore that I don't really enjoy. I think it did those really well. It's just kind of constant, like you don't really expect what's coming next, and I feel like that's kind of hard to do on an album like this, especially with its song length. It's only like 27 minutes long. But yeah, I think this album was actually really good. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. That's all I gotta say about that.
So yeah, this is peak mathcore to me. My main gripe with mathcore a lot of the time is just that it's. I know it's supposed to be chaotic, but it's all chaos all the time. It doesn't ever take a minute to breathe. This album has some really good breakdowns and some really good breathing moments. And it also has the shoegaze elements, which I think are done extremely well and extremely tastefully. Um, it's funny that you say they did the laser noises tastefully. Like, I feel like this is some of the worst abuse of laser noises, like in metalcore. Period. I love it for that, but I think this is some of the like craziest laser noise abuse. But I love that. It's a great album. This is for its like 2018. There's nothing else like really identical to this when that comes out. Lots of bands try and copy Vane later. Um, and also just like pointing out how talented all the people in this band are. Like Vane basically is Fleshwater, if you know them, who are like a heavy shoegaze band. There's like Living Weapon, who's another mathcore band. There's No Souls Saved, which is deathcore. There's fucking East Beast and Enraged Youth, which are hardcore punk. So like all of those influences come together really well. Vane is their most complete project, and I think Arizona is Vane's best album. Um, Old Data and a Dead Machine is one of my favorite songs of all time as well. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I agree with Kyle that I think the short length, the short playtime plays in favor of this because it doesn't overstay its welcome at all. But that's all I have for comments. I'd personally put this. Okay, well, also there are also a good like chunk of tracks where they're just all right for me. But that being said, I'd probably put this near the top of A tier.
Man, some people know I'm a huge fan of Car Bomb, and these guys kind of remind me a little bit of them, so I would probably put them in like a high A.
I want to say S.
All right, you know what? Just to spice it up, we're gonna throw
Give it a low S.
we're gonna throw it in S tier.
Oh.
All right, up next we got Disembodied. Okay, this is If God Only Knew the Rest Were Dead by Disembodied. Okay, and I listened to this twice because, I had to go through the entire playlist twice. I think it's Heroin Fingers. It's alright. Nothing really to write about, to be honest.
Oof.
Bloodshed Rain is decent. It's got some pretty good riffs and nice breakdown. This location is pretty sick. Nice riffs and grooves. Gone is okay. Not a fan of the spoken word sections in this album, to be honest. Instrumentally, it's okay. Burning Cupid, I thought was meh. Overall, I do like the production. In like two songs from this EP. It's solid. You're lucky I listened to it twice because I probably would have put this in like low C tier. Because so so that's all I have.
So this is peak. I love the kind of almost new metal style it has. Like it doesn't have like rap sections in it. It has like corn and early Slipknot's creepiness and then their heaviness. So I really love Heroin Fingers. I just think the combination of like the really slow intro into just that heavy section just is great. I love the call outs on this album. I think it's Bloodshed Rain that kind of has more of like a thrashy riff in it too. I love the vocals on this. I love the production. Everything about this fucking album I just love. That's all I got to say about it.
I'm with Kyle on this one. This is like kind of peak to me. I'm gonna disagree with Aaron. I think the spoken word parts are really good. I always like when bands do that. Not enough bands throw in like a little spoken word part every once in a while. It's a good little switch up. I feel like it's needed a lot of the time. Heroin Fingers is like a favorite song of all time for me. It's like way up there for me, like a top 50. And all the other songs are good. Like Kyle said, I like the new metal kind of sound. I like how sludgy it gets sometimes. The production is just kind of like gloopy and sludgy and like kind of like a big pit of like mud almost. But I like that about it. Um, Drop G sharp in like what 1998. That's kind of interesting. Not many bands are doing that quite yet. So I think this is a big innovator. I think this is a huge like step forward for that time. I'm a big fan. That's all I got.
The spoken word is fine as long as like it seems appropriate. So, for some reason, for me, it just kind of stays its welcome in this album. I get if like it's enjoyable or something. Um, yeah, that's pretty much my comments. I would probably put I would put this in low B tier.
I got one comment, bro. When he yells fucking God save us, dude, that's like one of the best things I've ever heard. That's like the best thing to ever grace my ear. This is S tier for me.
Yeah, this is S tier. Like, even if the other four tracks are kind of mediocre, I think just for Heroin Fingers, this is an S for me.
All right, since I would probably put this in low B, I'm gonna put it at the top of A.
Nice.
There.
Or yeah, I think it's I think it's fine there. Alright, next up we got. Oh yeah, The Fall of Ideals. Let's fucking go. To start, This Calling was my introduction to this band. Funny enough, I actually listened to that song because I watched a Nate Nocturnal video. So the one time he was like useful in recommending music.
Damn.
Um, I think
Damn.
that I think that song has some awesome riffs, and I love the chorus. Not Alone has a cool chorus and a very fun chuggy rhythm. It Dwells on Me is decent. Um, we Stand has some cool lead parts and riffs. The chorus is pretty good too. Whispers I Hear You is pretty good too. I love the nice harmonized main riff, and the chorus is also fun. Weak Willed has some of the most brutal vocals in this entire album. The riff is heavy as balls as well. I love the intro. I love the intro to Six, and the clean guitar part near the middle is awesome. Great riffs in that song as well. Become the Catalyst has some very fun riffs too. The air the air that I breathe is good too. Empty Inside, I like the blast beats and the main riff on this as well. But the breakdown is okay. It's probably one of the weaker breakdowns of this album. Indictment or whatever is a pretty solid closer as well. Overall, I'm not familiar with the critical acclaim of this album. I just know it's popular, but I think it's deserving. This is going back to like this album. It's one of my favorites now. So that's all I have.
So for me, again, this is peak. I think it just hits so hard. Like it gets really emotional, but it's not afraid to get brutal with like Become the Catalyst. I really like that intro and that low he does. The riffs are fucking fantastic. They go it's really fast for this kind of metalcore. It's got almost borderline thrash in it. Um for some of the intros like on Six and Not Alone, there's a lot of like technical bits, and I really like that. And I feel like people don't mention this too much. The drumming is fucking insane. How fast he goes on that double bass is it's just crazy to me, and that's all I gotta say about it.
Yeah. I listened to this album while I was at work, and for some reason, I had Shadows of Security by As I Lay Dying in my head, so I got to Six, and I was expecting it to be Darkest Nights. It's like I was expecting that, but like, Six is a classic song. That's where I'm going with that. Six was a song that was in like I think like Guitar Hero 2, something like right, some shit like that. Six is a classic song. I love that song. I think this is a good album. This is solid. I think All That Remains has Overcome and This Darkened Heart, which are significantly better than Fall of Ideals for me. But I don't mind Fall of Ideals at all. Most of this album kind of blends together for me, other than Six. Not just because Six is a song that I've heard so many times. That's all I got.
Okay, I would put this in S tier.
Probably put it in S tier. Another comment I got on it is I actually not the biggest fan of the production. I think it takes away a little bit from the heaviness.
That's fair enough.
I put it in B tier. I think it's solid, but I think, especially having heard This Darkened Heart so many times as well, like that album overshadows Fall of Ideals to me so much that it almost ruins it a little bit. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. All right. Well, since he'd put it in B tier, and we'd probably put it near the top. Think somewhere. Think somewhere here is fine.
Right
Where
above Bleeding Through and below Perseverance.
fine. All right. Next up, we got All Out War, which is one of the people who aren't here pick. This is probably actually when I said like this might be the shortest review. This is my shortest review. I had a lot more to say, but I didn't fucking care enough about this to write so much shit. How I would describe this is basically a worse day of suffering. I like the vocals and riffs on Day of Suffering more because I relate to it because they sound similar to me. The title track goes hard. A lot of the songs do actually, but there's really nothing really to write about them, to be honest. I think it's just a solid album. That's all I have.
So out of like all the beloved classic metalcore albums, this is probably one of my least favorite actually. I'm just not a huge fan of this album. I just don't think it's as strong as other bands. I'm not a fan of the vocals, and it drags on way too fucking long. And I don't think there's too many like highlights of it, but that's kind of all I gotta say about it.
Yeah, I have one comment. I forgot to mention that I totally agree that it drags a lot. Yeah.
Fucking 49 minutes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So yeah, this is a long ass album. I'm gonna be real. It's a long ass album for what it is. Like out of all the New York hardcore bands, All Out War is one that I like, but at the same time, when I listen to All Out War, I hear the thrash riffs and I say that I'd rather just listen to thrash, and then I hear the hardcore riffs and I'd just rather listen to Madball, and it's like, so why not just like make a playlist with both? Because they don't flow very seamlessly. There's thrashy songs and then there's heavy songs. Like, I'd rather just have a playlist with like Testament and Madball than listen to this album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The New York hardcore stuff is dope though. I think the vocal delivery takes a lot of like that's where all that lies in for me is the vocals, which is like that's an important part of hardcore and metalcore. This would be a really good EP. It's just a decent album, is what I'll say. That's all I got.
All right, I would probably put this in B tier. What about you?
I would probably do high C.
Yeah, I feel B.
Um, yeah, we're gonna go with the low B then.
Yeah.
All right, next up we got P2, sweet. This is also another album that I said you'll be surprised in my opinion. Okay. I think that the opening track, I'm not sure, more Massa or whatever it's called. This for some reason reminds me of the one from it's a zombie song from Call of Duty. Um, have a blast. I thought it was pretty fun. I like the riffs. Facepalm is pretty great too. G is alright. Scarlet, holy shit. Scarlet is a fucking banger of a song. Holy god. Out of all the like the songs I've listened to in this playlist from albums that I have not heard, that song has made me want to look up tabs and learn the riff. That fucking song is a banger. Um luck as a as a constant constant god, or luck is a constant. I fucking need to do grammar when I write my notes. the, like the intro of the song is fucking fire. The rest of the songs, here's the catch though. The rest of the songs are just okay to me, but there are like three fucking awesome songs on this track list that just blow me away. Um, so yeah, that's all I have.
Um, so for Periphery in general, they kind of fell off in my like interest. I've just kind of lost interest in them for a long time. Coming back to this album, I think it's a little inconsistent. Holds my interest. Like I really like Have a Blast, Facepalm Mute, Scarlet, and then I just kind of out a lot. The riffs are really, and it's all really fucking impressive. But in terms of holding my interest, it just kind of doesn't do it for me, and that's all I gotta say about it.
I think this is not Periphery's best, but it's when they found their sound really. There's P1, which is good, in my opinion, better than P2, but you can tell they were still kind of figuring things out. P2, you can tell that Misha wrote most of it. These are very Misha riffs. They're not. I mean, Jake wrote a lot too, but you can tell that Misha wrote a lot of these, like Scarlet, and especially Scarlet. You can tell Misha wrote that. I think Spencer really found his vocals here as well versus P1. I think this is where he comes into his own little form. It's a long album, I'll say that. 14 songs, an hour and 8 minutes. It's a little much, but there's enough really awesome tracks. Facepalm Mute, Gods Must Be Crazy, Scarlet, Make Total Destroy, Frog and Bullfish. Those are all really, really good songs for me. I like the proggier parts. The gentler parts are surprisingly what I like the least on this album. I think they shine their best when they're just kind of noodling around. That's what Periphery is good at for me is the noodling. They're not really good at making heavy tracks. They're good at making like tracks that make me like want to devote my full attention. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, so considering this album has 3 tracks I like genuinely very much enjoy, I would put this in high B tier, high A tier, considering there's a bunch of tracks that don't do much for me, but that's where I would probably fit it.
I'd probably do like a mid B tier.
Sorry, what about
Low A
you?
tier. Low A tier.
All right. Yeah. I think
Feels disrespectful to put it below Jane Doe, but that's how I feel.
it's okay. I probably would listen.
It feels disrespectful to put it above, but that's where it goes.
Yeah. Anyway, next up we got Ascendancy. Cool. This is the other Trivium album on this list. Okay. Alright, so I think Rain is a very thrashy opener. Pull Harder on Your Strings is good, but I've honestly never have found the hype in this track. Like, I see a bunch of like comments on Instagram, like to play this song or something. Apparently it's one of their most popular songs. I've just never find myself to like being like blown away by this track like a lot of people make me feel. Drowned and Torn Asunder is a great song as well. I like the chorus. The title track has a pretty sick riff, and it has like also like the sick riff also has the same picking pattern as like a lot of death riffs have. Gunshot to the Head, it's pretty good. I pretty much like all of these up to like Light to the Flies. The rest of the songs after that, besides the Deceived, are just okay to me. So this album is good, but it does like fall off and then pick back up for a song and then drop back for a bit. Um, but yeah, honestly, I think this has grown on me the more I've listened to it. Because in my Trivium ranking, I put it in B tier, but honestly, I'd probably put this somewhere in A tier. That's all I have.
So I probably wouldn't have said this like a few months ago, but I actually do prefer Ember to Inferno a lot more now. Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr, is actually a song I listen to way fucking too much. The highlight of that song is the drum intro, in my opinion. I just think like once again, Travis is just fucking awesome, and it's got great riffs. It's got great thrash riffs, but for a little while now, it's not really holding my attention anymore. The only tracks I really come back to are Pull Harder and Dying in Your Arms. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about it.
Ascendancy I have very mixed feelings on. For the longest time, it was the only Trivium album I could really get into. But listening through all their albums again, it's top 5 for me, but barely. It's a good album, but my mixed feelings come with like, this sounds stupid. A lot of metal elitists like to say that Ascendancy by Trivium ruined metalcore, and I feel inclined to agree almost because there's like a 5-6 year span after Ascendancy where everyone's just trying to do the exact same thing, and it gets stale. Like it really, really gets stale to me. the album gets stale after a certain point to me too, but just as everyone trying to mimic that sound and be the next like big album after that, like that kind of gets to me. I mean, like Shadows Fall, I think fall. I like Shadows Fall, but everything post War Within just falls into the Ascendancy box, which makes me feel kind of bad. Devil Wears Prada's early stuff, Darkest Hour, Deliver Us by Darkest Hour, that 2007 album, even like early Asking Alexandria, fucking everything As I Lay Dying did after 2005, early August Burns Red, Parkway Drive to some extent. It all sounds like it's trying to be Ascendancy, and a lot of it mimics it pretty well, but then you get shit like Black Veil Brides or fucking Misery Signals or Demon Hunter or In This Moment that just do it so dog shit that I can't help but like be a little upset by it. I think Ascendancy is a good album. I think Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr is an amazing song, but I do resent it a little bit. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah.
All right. I'd probably put this at the bottom of A. What are y'all thinking?
Sure. A little comment I got on it is, man, In the Court of the Dragon is pretty much like Ascendancy, but just like a million fucking times better. It's just an album that's way more mature, and I'd probably put this in a high B now.
Low A. Low A.
All right. I'll put it at the top of B. I do agree. By the way, In the Court of Dragon is my second favorite of Trivium.
Yeah.
Dude,
Court of
yeah.
the Dragon is just this, but you can tell they did it 16 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also helps that there are a couple Shogun songs on In the Court of the Dragon too.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. What do we got next? All right, cool. We got
Wham.
Perfect Picture. All right. I think there are solid tracks across this. Dying Light, Chasing Shadows, Serenity, and Horizons. I was surprised that this album came out this year because it sounds like it came out in the mid 2000s. While a lot of the songs are just solid, I find this my main issue with this is that it is incredibly forgettable. I couldn't tell you how a single song goes on this with after hearing it like 10 minutes ago. I do think the interlude they have in here with the hip hop beat is pretty bad, but that's all I have to say about it.
So I found this band because of their guitarist was doing a lot of like covers on Instagram, and he played a lot of like early 2000s melodic metalcore. So I decided to check out his band, and I will say I definitely liked it more the first time I heard it. It's got some great riffs, and I really like some of the harmonics they do. Like I think it's on a Serenity. Like fucking can pronounce that right. The interlude is fucking trash. I just think it completely ruins the flow of the album with that dumbass hip hop beat. Horizons I think is really good. It's probably my favorite on it. I just like that more straightforward melodic riff. The vocals I really enjoy. I just hate the stupid vocal effects that they did. Overall, I think these guys have a lot of potential. They just gotta work on kind of dropping a lot of their modern kinks, and that's all I can say about it.
Um. Yeah. So we picked like a really convenient order to go in because like exactly what I was talking about falling into the ascendancy box. That's how I feel about this album so hard. I think this like synth parts again add nothing. I don't know why. I don't know what they're thinking. This is entirely forgettable. They're not hip hop producers. I don't know what they were thinking with a trap beat interlude, with multiple of them actually. Um, I don't know what the thought process was there. It's just not really in style. Even if it was in an album that style, they're not great beats. I don't know. You can tell it came out this year, and you can tell that they listened to a lot of Trivium and Kill Switch. But that's all you can tell. Like I listen to this and I'm just like, hey, that's a Kill Switch riff, and then I'm like, okay, then why don't I just listen to Kill Switch, right? Like you can tell it came out this year, and it's a legacy act, is what it is, and that's okay sometimes. But I just think this is a really forgettable one. That's all I got.
Yeah, to be a little harsh, I'd probably put this on C tier.
I would probably do high C too.
Yeah, I'm going C.
All right, cool. First C tier. All right, next up, let's get cool. Parkway Drive. All right. This is the second album I'm listening to by them. I listened to Killing with a Smile before. To start, the Siren Song intro lead kind of sounds kind of cartoony, but overall I think this song is good. Feed Them to the Pigs is a cool harmonized riff that you'd hear in like an At the Gate song. I know that doesn't really narrow it down, but it's like in the middle section. Carry On is good too. Nice slow riffs. Boneyards is a banger. Idols and Anchors is a banger as well. I love the intro lick to that. It sounds for some reason it sounds kind of nostalgic. I enjoy the nice melody and the interlude of Moments in Oblivion, and I also like how they bring back that melody in I forget which track it is. I think it might be the closer. Frostbite is also a banger. Overall, I think this is a good piece of metalcore. However, I do think I prefer Killing with a Smile, and I also think this band gets kind of unnecessary hate because like their early stuff is not that bad.
So I kind of hate a lot how a lot of people just openly said this band was trash, even like metalcore fans. And I didn't know that they were talking about their later work because their later not even fucking metalcore. They do like alt rock and I believe like they did a fucking power metal album, which is interesting. As soon as I first heard Carry On, and I just absolutely fell in love with this album. I love the riffs. It really reminds me of I'm like, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Killswitch Engaged album Alive or Just Breathing, and it really reminded me of that album. I just couldn't put this thing down for a long time. I just think it's got some great riffs, and it's just so fucking catchy. And I'm I completely sucked off Carry On for a long time. I just, even though it's only been like not even a year since I've heard this album. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about it.
So wham, this band is fucking trash. I don't like Parkway Drive. I think they've like gotta be like without a doubt the most overrated fucking band in metalcore. People glaze their early stuff so hard, and I listen to it and I'm like, this is okay. I think Horizons is an okay album. It teeters on decent for me because there's songs like Carrion and Boneyards that are so good, and then just everything else is forgettable. And again, convenient order. This is an ascendance. This is an ascendancy clone to me. Um, it's just like I don't remember anything from this other than the couple standout tracks there are. I couldn't tell you anything about really any of the songs but Carrion and Boneyards. Um, I will say I've never heard anyone talk about the drumming on this album. I think that's something that needs to be talked about because I think it's really fucking good. Drumming isn't something that shines in this style a lot to me, but I think this is a band that does it pretty well. I think Winston is a good vocalist. Um, I like the song she does features in more than this, but he's a really good vocalist. That's something that kind of comes out on this album. But that being said, I don't like Parkway Drive, and I don't love this album. Like I said, this teeters onto decent for me, just because of how good a couple of these songs are. But thinking about it more now, I'm more inclined to say just okay. That's all I got.
I have a comment. I don't think every metalcore album after Ascendancy is an Ascendancy clone because I don't really hear Trivium that much in this album. I hear more at the gates than anything.
I don't think all of them are, but I think this one definitely is. Like, actually, we're talking about Parkway Drive. Like, a good example of one that isn't is Deep Blue by Parkway Drive, which I think is way better than Horizons. Like, Deep Blue is their one album that I really like, and that album doesn't feel like Ascendancy to me at all. Um, But I do get that from Horizons a lot.
All right, fair enough. I'd probably put this somewhere in A tier.
I'd probably do A tier too.
High C.
All right. I guess high C then, since all right,
Put it
we'll
above
do
all out
bottom of A.
Yeah.
Oh damn. Okay.
What?
Okay.
All right, fine. Are you
Fuck.
fine?
Wait, let's put it in parking.
Huh?
All right. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Is this good for you, Tommy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up we got cool. Bullet for my Valentine. Okay. To start, I think the first time I listened to this before I went back to listen to it again, this is the first time listening to it in full. So these are my notes listening to it for a second time. Her voice resides is pretty good. Solid opener. Four songs to choke upon. Reminds me of a Children of Bodom song, mostly the intro. Pretty good song overall, especially the part where especially that riff after he screams, "Look at me now." Tears Don't Fall is, of course, like a classic, great track. Suffocating Under Words is pretty baller too. Love the riffs in this. Love the riffs in this one. I love the intro riff in Hit the Floor. All these things I hate has an amazing chorus, but the vocals kind of on this song kind of remind me of Oasis in a way. Room 409 is good, but the main riff is a little goofy. The title track is decent. 10 years later is solid as well. Cries in Vain is solid as well. Spit You Out is okay. The closer is fine as well. Overall, I think I was kind of expecting a little more from this album, considering it's like praised very highly. I think it's good, but it kind of falls a little for me. Not as much as Ascendancy. I think it's a good album. That's all I have.
So I was in a metalcore server for a while, and I regret being there because all of them, but they all fucking sucked. Um, they always called Bullet for My Valentine false metalcore, like how Trivium is for some reason called. And I think that's just like I just want to say that's such a stupid fucking term. Like they call these guys fucking melodic thrash metal. Like what the fuck does that even mean? Um, for the album, this is one of my favorite metalcore albums. It's metalcore. Jesus Christ. Um, Four Words to Choke Upon is definitely my favorite song on it. It's got such a bouncing groove with just the vocals, the bass line, and the drums. I love the intro of that song. Tears Don't Fall, I listened to way too much, so it kind of fell off a little bit for me, but I still absolutely adore that song. Hit the Floor is a nice, heavier song. And overall, I just love a lot of things about this album. I love the riffs. The production is peak for me. I love how everything fucking sounds. The vocals are something I actually used to not enjoy. I just didn't really like that style of vocals, but I learned to love them, and that's all I gotta say about it.
So yeah, I think this album is really really good. Um, I think introducing more traditionally emo and pop punk and post hardcore elements into melodic metalcore is really cool. I think Bullet for My Valentine isn't the first band to do that, but they're definitely the one that popularized it. Almost to the point where a lot of people think melodic metalcore and metalcore in general is like emo music. That's like the kind of effect that this album had on people. Made people see like this and like Black Veil Brides and shit like that is like how it all is, which is unfortunate, but that does just go to show how many people this album reached. I think that's for a good reason. This has some great riffs, has really, really good vocal lines. I think Matt Tuck is really, really good at writing. Both lyrics and guitar and vocals. I also think that Having some more ballady tracks like Tears Don't Fall is a really good call. It's a little long winded for me. The end is too long. Um, the Apocalyptica intro is pretty good, but I find it's like 2 minutes you can just trim off. Room 409 is a really good song. Tears Don't Fall is really good. Four Words to Choke Upon is really good. In my opinion, this gets a little bit overshadowed by the songs on the Hand of Blood EP. But it's about on par with like Scream Aim Fire for me. I think this is really good. One thing I think it could have taken is a bit more thrashy parts like Scream Aim Fire has, but overall I really like it. And that's all I have.
Okay, I'd probably put this in the middle of A tier.
I'd probably do a more of a high A tier.
Yeah, solid middle of A.
Alright, I'd probably put it right there then.
Solid.
Alright, next up we got. Oh, just. Alright.
Oh, brother.
Alright. So, oh fuck, I got rid of my notes for a second. Okay, spoiler alert, this album has the longest review, because I reviewed every single song. So, here we go. This is Trinity by Gloom in the Corner. And, like I commented earlier, like, with Alpha Wolf, not my style of metalcore, but we'll get to every single thing I said about every single song. Alright, so the opener, From Heaven to Hell, is fine. Nothing really offensive here. The grandness is cool, as well as the melody in the second half of the song. Rhythm guitar is cool. Then there's like a demon voice that gets old later on. Obliteration Imminent, it's fine. But if I wasn't looking at Spotify, I would have not known that that song started after the first. Ronin is so boring. I do not like this track whatsoever. Not to mention the first time I went through this album, I was listening to it and then I came back to look at Spotify and I did not even notice that the song changed. The end of Ronin is just so fucking bad. I don't like it. And at this point, the demon voice, even though it's like what the third track gets super old, I understand that it's like it's part of like a story of a deeper meaning. But as someone who doesn't give a shit about it, I think it's stupid. Black Rot, I like the woman vocals and I guess the end section where the guitar and symphony follow each other, but that's about it. The New Order, What Goes Around Comes Around is indeed one of the catchier moments of this album, so I'll give it that. And I think the low tuning that this album has, like you can tell, is just fucking obnoxious. Clutch, I think this is the best thing about this track are the woman vocal lines. Uh, I think is it Pandora's Box. The intro of the song is cool. I think the chorus is pretty neat as well. Probably the most enjoyable song up to this point for me. Behemoth. I like how the demon voice is talking and then the vocalist yells "Shut the fuck up" because that's exactly how I feel. I guess the voice is kind of appropriate due to the song title. Instrumentally, the song is super boring and uninteresting. Gravity, it's fine. It's decent. Not enough. Not enough. There's nothing there to hate on it, but there's also nothing there to like really enjoy it. Red Clouds, very pretty song. You could tell a lot of effort went into this track as well. Nor Hell or A Fury, it's okay. Some guitar sections are cool, but most of it is a snooze. Gate Creeper, solid track. I like one of the riffs in the first half of the song, and also the clean vocals, which, to be honest, to give where credit is due, I like the clean vocals across this. I think they're great. Hail the King, I'd say the clean intro section of the song is what I like most about it. I'm not quite sure why it's 8 minutes. Then after that, there's nothing really enjoyable. I'm not gonna comment on the pig squeals because I want to be honest. Pig squeals have grown on me since I've heard this album, especially since I've gotten into like slam a little bit more. Overall, I get what this is going for. It's trying to tell a story, but as someone who just doesn't give two shits about that and wants to hear interesting riffs, just super boring to me, and it's not appealing. But I do understand why people like it, but this is the worst album on the tier list for me. That's all I have.
So I really wanted to like this album because I actually first listened on Fear Me. I actually kind of like that album a lot. This album has a lot of features. It's one of those albums that just has a feature on almost every track. Ronin, I didn't like. I really wanted to like it because I'm a huge Crystal fan, and I believe that's Ryo on it. It also has Joe Bad on Hail to the King. I'm a huge For an Autopsy fan. The entire album just didn't do it for me. All the songs on it sounded very kind of same-ish. It was just like a theatrical sound, and then like very just low tuned guitars. And I just have a really hard time remembering like what went on this album, and I listened to it a couple times. So yeah, that's all I can say about it.
So, this is an album that over time has fallen down for me a little bit. When I first listened to it, I thought it was perfect. What I'm on like, I don't know, my like 35th fucking listen to this album, and like, I like it, but I like these songs, but I don't like this album. If that makes sense. This to me, and this is something that would only affect you if you're a big Gloom in the Corner fan. But as someone that loves this band, like the whole concept of this album kills me. Everything up until now is telling a really focused story about the main character. And this album says, fuck you, fuck your main character. Here's 3 side characters that we killed off earlier. And instead of having a deep introspective look into the main character's head and his headspace and his thoughts and his world and world building, you're gonna follow these 3 dudes on a goofy fucking fetch quest through hell to find a MacGuffin. Which, like, that's a little upsetting. It's like it's the way as a Star Wars fan I feel about Episode 7 is it's a good movie when taken on its own, but I hate what it stands for and I hate what it ruins. Like Star Wars has a perfect conclusion on fucking Episode 6. Anakin brings balance to the Force. He's the chosen one, except actually no he didn't cuz all this shit's happening. So it's like that's how I feel about this album. I think these songs are really good. I don't like the symphony a ton. I think Gloom proved that they can tell a nice story with no symphony and without having the theater elements. So this feels like a crutch almost in writing a story, since it's more conventional of a story than a conceptual thing. Into individual tracks, From Heaven to Hell is a great intro. Obliteration Imminent is forgettable. Ronan is fucking face melting. I love that song. Black Rot's forgettable. New Order is really unique, and it has a super good chorus. Clutch I forget a lot. Pandora's Box has a great chorus. Behemoth, yes, it has a boring instrumental, but I think something that Aaron neglected to mention is that Behemoth is a rap song, so it's like you're not supposed to really be focusing on the instruments as much as you are Mikey's absurd fucking flow. Gravity is one of the like as a classical music nerd and someone that composes, like the composition in Gravity is spectacular. That intro part, like that gives me so many goosebumps. Red Clouds is I don't know, it's a mid-ass ballad. Um, Nurhella Fury. Oh, sorry, back to Red Clouds. It has some of the most blunt lyrics of all time too. It's like not subtle at all. Nurhella Fury is really good. This is my favorite track on the album. That's a really cool callback to a breakdown that's in their first album, except they swing it and make it kind of jazzy, and it's kind of dope. It's kind of badass. Gatekeeper's great. Gatekeeper has some of the better lyricism on the album, and Hail to the King is entirely too long. I understand why it's long, but I know I've been yapping about it. I'm gonna wrap it up real quick. It's a great album, but at the same time I don't like it. If that makes sense. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'd like to say that if you don't switch it up at like instrumentally, like a lot, then it's gonna blend together regardless if it's a rap song or not. So
That's fair enough, but like Behemoth drops the symphony pretty hard too. Like Behemoth is like they bring in the fucking like more synth chords instead of the symphony. So I feel like that breaks it up pretty well. Also having some of the trap like 808s in the back as well kind of helps break that up to me.
yeah, I couldn't tell you because this album is completely forgettable for me. So, I'd put this in D tier.
Um, I wouldn't be that harsh about it. For me, I think I do like a low C, even though it's pretty much the same thing.
Uh, I want to put it in high A, but honestly, this is an album where I'm comfortable putting this anywhere because yeah, I understand why it's not enjoyable to a lot of people. At the same time, that's weird for me though, because I feel like I would enjoy it more if I wasn't just a fan of this band. If I had just come across this album and not become invested in the band, I feel like I'd enjoy it more as a standalone. But I get it's not for everyone. I think it's a high A.
All right.
Put it in the top of C or bottom of
Yeah,
B.
that's cool, dude. Sorry for that then. What's next? Oh, cool. As Daylight Dies. Okay. So, I think this is my favorite Kill Switch album. It was between this and End of a Heartache for me, I think. I think it's a very, very consistent album. It's got bangers like the title track. This is Absolution. Love the chorus on that song. Unbroken is sick too. Unbroken has a nice cowbell jump scare. My curse is a classic. Everyone knows that song. I think the second part of Break the Silence is sick. It's pretty atmospheric. I like that. Reject Yourself is a very at the gatesy out song. Overall, I love this album. Great production and the vocals are pretty much legendary. That's all I have for it.
So this might surprise a lot of people, but
Not me.
when I first heard this album, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think it was like the overall sound for me. It just didn't hit as hard as other things that they have made, like their earlier work, like the two albums before this, End of the Heartache and Alive or Just Breathing, which is still my favorite album from them, no matter how million times I listen to that thing. But as I've listened to this album a lot more, it's really grown on me. It's got the opener as Daylight Dies is really good. I really like that. I don't know what it is, but I really like that effect on the intro of it. I think that's a really cool effect. This is Absolution they both kind of go into each other where it's like As Daylight Dies just ends a little bit and then it just hits hard with This is Absolution. My Curse is just a banger. It's just yeah, there's nothing more to say about it. It's just such a great song. And then I do kind of want to talk about like a few of the bonus tracks. This Fire is I think is really good, and of course there's Holy Diver, the cover that they did, which I've always been a huge fan of. That's all I gotta say about it.
As Daylight Dies to me is largely overshadowed by the End of Heartache. But I still really like As Daylight Dies. My Curse, that's a classic, obviously. Reject Yourself is a song I don't hear people talk about ever, but holy fuck, that's a really good song. Great
Mhm.
riffing, great vocal lines. This is a well produced album. I don't get this gripe much with albums, but my big production gripe here is just like I can never pick out the bass at all. It's just something that like you don't really try and do. But when I listen to an album to really gauge how good the production is, I always like to pause during a couple songs and try and pick apart each instrument. And bass is one that I can't really separate very well. Um, which made me I don't know, I kind of ruined it for me. It made me realize like, wow, this isn't a very bassy album, which is okay, but just a little gripe. I think this is generic as fuck, but that's not on account of it copying something else. That's on account of everyone else copying it and Trivium. So, for being kind of the patient zero, I commend this. This is a really good this is the better of the two styles, in my opinion. Just carries a lot more Gothenburg, I think, than Trivium does, and also carries a lot more groove metal than Trivium does. Which I like. It's weird that it carries both of those really hard, but I enjoy that it does that. It's got that like nice fucking groove to it, but it's also got the Gothenburg. So I enjoy that about it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I'd probably put this in S.
I would do a high A for me.
I'm with Kyle. I think an A tier.
Alright, it's gonna go at the top of A2 then. Alright, we got 4 more. Let's do it. Alright, cool. We got Petitioning the Sky by Converge. And this is one I put in. I put in this tier list because I remember listening to it one time because Kyle recommended it to me and I remember liking it. So to start, the Saddest Day starts out with like a kind of mathcore-ish riff. There's a section where it gets faster and faster, and I'm a sucker for those type of songs who have those type of sections. Forsaken is a banger too. Shingles is solid as well. Um, but the thing is that even though I liked this when I first heard it, for some reason this wasn't as good as I remember it. Like some of the tracks don't catch me as much. I think the production is pretty solid as well. And like I think it was in Jane Doe where they had a melodic like song. This one also has one of those as well. It's a farewell note to the city. I think it was really good. Overall, I think this is good, but it's not as good as I remember it. Unfortunately, that's all I have.
I'm actually kind of with you on it. This actually used to be my favorite Converge album. I'm kind of quoting album because this is actually apparently more of a compilation of a lot of tracks they've written. It used to be my favorite, and then Jane Doe was my favorite, but then I listened to When Forever Comes Crashing, and that's now my favorite. The Saddest Day is a banger. It's got one of my favorite breakdowns. I love how it speeds up and then it goes into the solo, which I've never really heard before until now. It's a good album, and but I'm not actually a huge fan of the production on it. I think it sounds a little thin. It's nice and chaotic, and it mixes it up at times, but if it has fallen off for me over the years, and that's all I gotta say about it.
I definitely prefer Converge's earlier sound. I prefer pre Jane Doe to post Jane Doe, which I know is an extremely unpopular opinion, but I think out of the two albums here from Converge, this is the better one. I haven't heard every Converge album, but from what I have heard, I'd be inclined to say this is in their top three. Um, it's between this and When Forever Comes Crashing and You Fail Me or Jane Doe to me. But Petitioning the Empty Sky is really good. I like have nothing to say about this. It's kind of a blank slate album to me. I like the more raw production. Farewell Note to the City is a pretty nice melodic track. Forsaken is kind of like a good song to me. Dead is really good. That's my favorite on this album. But like it's entirely it's good, but it's entirely unnotable to me.
So we back because my dumbass fucking forgot this thing. So let's let's just mix these up. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. Wait. Oh, I forgot. We didn't rank fucking Petitioning the Sky. Okay. I'd put this in B tier somewhere.
Yeah.
I'd go low A. B's cool for me though.
All right. Let's. Probably put it there. All right. Next up, we got. Oh, cool. We got one of my peaks, bro. Okay. So, you know how they've been like saying a couple of their albums are their peak. Well, this is one of my peaks. This came out last year, and oh my god, dude, I've been longing the sound so much. This is so fucking good. I love, like, just like the riff in Under the Weight of a Blackened Sky, like the do 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 do. Just that is just fucking awesome. I love the guitar tone. I and like the harmonized melody at the end of a dagger to the heart of finality, just so fucking good. Um, I love the energy this album has. I kind of like the vintage like drum sound where they sound raw, especially that snare. I think the drumming is can be a little messy here sometimes. Um, but that doesn't really hinder my enjoyment, or I don't really notice it that much. But this was my second favorite release of last year. This is an awesome EP. It sounds just like even the cover. It looks like it was taken out of the '90s. So I fucking love this. That's all I have.
Even though I didn't, I believe I introduced this EP into the server.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, because I found it out of another guy in another server. He was like, "Yo, check this out. These guys kind of sound like a modern Undying," and we got Undying in on the tier list, and I'm a huge fan of Undying. And he was pretty much right. They do sound the production sounds a little more like Allegiance by As Blood Runs Black. It's more deathcore, but I love the style that they've got. The riffs are phenomenal. I love the production on it. The Even though the drums I do agree are a little sloppy, I love the sound of the drums. I don't have too much more to say about it, but especially the vocals are they're pretty good. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for it.
I have one more comment. I fully agree that this is basically a modern Undying, but they have a lot more like hardcore influence, a lot more consistent breakdowns and stuff. But yeah, that's all my comments.
Um, I like this. I think Belmora gets better. They're split with what is it? Since I Beloved's what that called, right?
Yeah.
I think they get better there. I think this is good. It fell off a second listen. This band is like an almost identical clone to me of another band called As Shara, which I happen to like a little bit more. So that brings it down a little bit, even though that has nothing to do with like this album's actual quality. When you hear something that's almost the same but it's not quite as good, it kind of ruins it a little bit. Um, but that being said, this is solid. It's very decent. July Unending is an amazing song, great composition. It's a band I need to see live. I love the revival of like the old school melodic metalcore. I like this style of the revival. I'm not a big fan of like Her Last Sight. That's what that band's called, right? I'm not a fan of bands like that where it's like a revival of the scene after like post 2006 2007 when it's like big. I like the more raw kind where it's basing off of like fucking old ass shit like fucking Far From Forgiven and the older stuff before melodic metalcore really like came into like its big sound. So I like this because it sounds unrefined, it sounds raw, it sounds kind of sloppy, but that adds to the quality. It makes it charming almost, kind of like a janky old video game that's like the jank is part of the charm. Like you ever play like fucking Halo 2? Like part of that game's charm for me is how janky it is. So that's how I feel about this album. And that's all I got.
Okay. I have a couple more comments. I am very excited to see where this band goes because they make very very good music. And so far this is my favorite of their music. I think they're half in the EP in the split they did this earlier this year. I think the songs are good, but I don't think they really compare to the songs here because since my beloved just fucking blows them kind of out of the water. I'm gonna be honest. But I personally put this in high S tier.
I would do S as well.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go smack in the middle of B tier.
Bruh.
Eat me, bitch.
Okay, then it's going right there then.
That's fair.
All right.
All right, next up we got Still Remains, cool. The album I fucking forgot to put on here. Alright,
Well,
this is Of Love and Lunacy by Still Remains. Um, I think the worst is yet to come is a great track. White Walls, the intro, reminds me of something from Colony. If I'm gonna be honest. Um, Pretty cool. Bliss has a riff where it sounds like it came from Oracle. Overall, this album feels like it was mega influenced, like In Flames, like compared to like a lot of the other melodic metalcore. That's more influenced by At the Gates. This sounds a lot more like just old school In Flames with just a little hardcore influence to me. Kelsey is a banger too. Stare and Wonder, um, has this. I think it's a either chorus or verse. I'm not quite sure. The riff on it. Um, I don't mind this. This is another album that has like synths in it. I don't really mind the synths at all because they are literally like I think they're the quietest like something at least one of the quietest things in the mix. They're in the background. They do not really hinder my enjoyment whatsoever. This might not be remarkable, but I enjoyed it for what it was entirely. That's all I have.
so I found this album under All That Remains, and I'm like, who the fuck are Still Remains? And so I instantly fell in love with this album. I love the riffs, and it's got a lot of more fast pace to it. It doesn't stop with the riffs and go straight into like just a lot of breakdowns. Like like I said, huge fan of fucking uh Alive or Just Breathing. This is an album that I find very similar in terms of the production of it. Like Aaron said, the synths are very subtle. They're almost tastefully subtle, even though they have like a full-on synth player in the band. And I love this album. White Walls is becoming one of my all-time favorite songs, and that's all I gotta say about it.
So yeah, I mean, this is about as melodic this is about as melodic metalcore as melodic metalcore gets. It's good. I like it. It's absolutely unnotable, but that's almost why I like it. It's an album that I know what I'm getting into. It's everything follows the format it's supposed to. The drummer in this band is fucking phenomenal. I read a Rate Your Music review talking about how the drummer reminded him of Fear Factory, and now that I listened, like after seeing that and then listening more, I was like, he does remind me of like Fear Factory. It's like, especially the double kick patterns, fucking, those are dope. Really good drumming on this album. Solid production, solid riffing. The synths again drag it down for me. I think this is one of the most unnecessary additions of a synth in metal history. It feels what I'd imagine happened is when they made the band, they had a buddy that played keyboard and he wanted to play too, and they were like, dope, yeah, whatever, and then they got big and they like that type deal. They had a guy, they didn't expect it to go far, and then it did. But even with the synths dragging it down, I think this is a really good album. That's all I got.
Dude, the synths could be like fucking like you could barely hear it. You'd be like, drags it down, bro.
It does because like
It doesn't. It's very
the
subtle.
barely hearing it is almost part of it because it's like why is it even there? I just hear it like in the very back of the mix, just like fucking background noise. It just like it clutters it up. You know what I mean? Like
There's no winning here.
it's clutter. It's if it did something other than just like follow the chord changes and do nothing, because like if it had its own little like lead part or like a dope solo or like had a whole little composition part with it, all it really does is follow the chord. Just like that's why there's a rhythm guitar player and a bass player. So what are you like? What are you doing?
That's fair, but I think there's nothing clearly. I don't think there's anything offensive about it. But
That's not offensive. It just doesn't add anything,
that's
and that upsets me a little bit. It's
that's
like,
fair.
why is it there?
I'd put this in A tier.
Yeah. I would do A tier as well.
Okay.
A tier.
Put it there. All right, we got two more. And let's just get my fucking peak out of the
Do
way,
not
dude.
lose last.
Let's just get my fucking peak out of the way. All right. I didn't write anything for this because first of all, this is my favorite album on this entire tier list. Um, so Kyle got me into this band. I think he recommended me the EP because yeah. Um, this this album is just so phenomenal. It's if you didn't show anyone that didn't if you showed like Nick Nocturnal this, he'd be like, this is not metalcore, because it's like the hardcore elements in my opinion are kind of like subtle. This basically sounds like a '90s Megadeth album, which is why, if you know me, why I love it so much. The fucking bangers like the opener Echoes, Tear, the Company of Storms, like there are moments in this album that I would describe as magical because of of how the melodies are, in some of these sections. Um, like the coming dark ages of phenomenal. Of Mask and Martyr is just fucking awesome. And the bonus track is completely worth listening to because it is a cover of The Cry of Mankind by My Dying Bride. And I personally prefer this version because, first of all, this version doesn't have 6 minutes of like ambience, and second of all, they actually make it into their own style. They harmonize the vocal, not the vocals, the uh, the riffs, and he uses his own vocal style instead of like trying to copy the the track just by the my Dying Bride style. Um, so yeah, this is my favorite. Uh, I will not budge to. This is high S tier for me. Absolutely.
So I will say, I absolutely love this album. I do like the EP a little more, just because I think it reminds me a little bit of Riding Christ almost with the palm muted melodies. But yeah, this album is a fucking banger. I really have nothing more to add to what you said. It's one of those albums where, again, I got it from the exact same guy in another server, and I was just absolutely first I was blown away by the EP, and then I listened to this, and I'm like, dude, this is fucking phenomenal. And yeah, it's basically all I gotta say about it.
Okay, I have one critique. I have one critique about it. Okay, first, I love the production. I love the rawness. And second, the only critique I have with this is that in the first like couple tracks there are like these weird glitch noises like transitioning between track to track. I find that kind of odd. It's sometimes I think it's my headphones. Um, but that's my only critique is that weird fucking noise between songs. That's all I have.
So yeah, this is a really good album. This album shines most in its kind of like black metal influence. There's some like kind of mellow black sounding parts. I think those are the best riffs on this album, personally. I think all the riffs are good. That's where it shines. There's great vocals. This is produced well for the time. I don't have much to say other than that. Really, it's just it is kind of it is kind of peak for what it does. I'll be real. All really good shit. They have some heavier parts, which puts them with the metalcore, but it's another band kind of like Archangel, where I feel like they're labeled a metalcore band more just because of who they hung out with and who they like, what scene they came up in, rather than what they played. Like, if this band was from Sweden, they'd be a metalcore band, but because they're from fucking North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere on the East Coast, because they're from there, they're a straight edge hardcore band. So just depends where you come up with. But I really like it. I think it's a solid album. Maybe not peak, but it gets close to peak. That's all I got.
Yeah, I also like to add that I like like I said in the Metaldeath video, like when referring to like the Kenori's quintet, I really like the agonizing like vocals. I think those are very unique and put it separates it from other other albums in the same genre.
Yeah. One more note on like the song transitions. I agree about that. Those are weird. It's funny to me because at least to me, that sounds like they forgot to crossfade the end of part of. It sounds like they
Yeah,
forgot to turn on auto crossfade,
yeah.
and then just forgot it at the end. It's kind of funny. It doesn't like drag it down, but it's just like something to note. Like who produced this shit? What?
Bruh. Alright. We're okay, so you guys already obviously know where I would put it.
Yeah,
Top of A tier.
that would do ass.
Yeah, you said top of A tier. Okay, I'm putting it.
Yeah.
I'm putting it right there then.
Cool.
All right. Last but not least, we got Knock Loose with Shut up.
Oh, brother.
You have no idea what I'm gonna say. Shut up.
Rip my heart out and stomp on it.
So, out of everything I've heard from Knock Loose so far, this is probably my favorite from them. Where the light divides the holler. The dissonant riff in that song kind of reminds me of an alarm clock. Um, I think this track is pretty decent, honestly. The riffs are pretty good. God Knows, out of everything I've heard so far of this band, God Knows is the only song that I would go back and like listen to on my own time. Like, it is such an awesome song. It goes so fucking hard. Um, I think the chug rhythm near the 1 minute and 19 mark is pretty neat, and I like the gutturals that Brian does. I think he should do that more often, to be honest. Um, Forced to Stay is pretty good as well. I like the very dissonant and atmospheric that the lead guitars are used in this song. And this is where the EP falls off for me. The rest of the songs are just decent or okay to me. Um, so overall, I'm pretty split with this EP. I think the first half is very good, then it just falls off for me. I think the production on here is awesome. I prefer the production on this way more than their most recent album. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Actually, no, it's not. Um, the vocals, they're weird because they're pretty much just there for me. Like if you had me listen to this like a year ago, I probably would have would have like had this in like C or D tier. But the vocals are just there for me. I don't think they're. I guess they're unique in what they do. As this band overall, I appreciate what they do for the modern metalcore scene. But I'm personally not really a huge fan. So that's all I have.
So kind of like Alpha Wolf, this was actually the exact same show with Motionless in White as the headliner. When I saw this band, I usually didn't think much of them. Like, I thought they were okay, but when I saw them, I really got their appeal. This EP I think is pretty solid. Like, it doesn't do too much for me, but I don't really hate it. It's like one of those things where I kind of like it, but I don't really give it another thought and don't really listen to it all that often. I really like the production on it. It kind of sounds like one of those albums that's trying to be a little scary. It's really in your face. I do think it's better than their 2019 and their newest. I listened to their newest. The vocals I don't think I've ever really minded. Like, I get that they're unique, but I've never really hated them or given them a second thought, and that's all I gotta say about it.
Peak. It's another peak for me. Fucking. Which is strange because I don't even think this is not Lose's best album. That's just how like good of a band I think Knock Loose is. This has their best production, has their best riffing. Um, God Knows is spectacular. I like the story it tells. It's hard to write a concept album in 6 tracks, especially when one of those tracks is under 2 minutes and another one is half intro. So it's impressive they managed to do it, and they managed to convey like the raw emotion of their story so well. it feels like a car crash, and that's dope because that's the theme of the album is a car crash. So it's like that's kind of cool that they managed to make it feel that way. It's like it's a very scary, it's a very anxiety inducing album. Then you get to Return to Passion, which is like fast and grindy, and it's like such a good climax for the album. And then the chaos dies down, and Permanent just is so fucking face pounding, like ridiculously heavy. Like it closes that out, and it's like it's a breakdown. It's not like the breakdown for a song. It's like if the album has a breakdown, Permanent is the breakdown for Tear in the Fabric of Life, which is impressive because like whole song breakdown, like that's kind of a dope idea to have for an album. Make each part like part of a big song. Dream Theater did something similar with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. They had like kind of like a whole little dope breakdown part of that ending tracks. It's like I really like that. And like I said, God Knows is one of the best songs that I know of. I've also seen these guys live multiple times, and that definitely does help getting the appeal. I wasn't even super into them until the first time that I saw them. I only heard God Knows, and I saw them open for Gojira, and it opened my eyes on them a little bit. That's all I got.
Yeah, it seems all three of us have seen them live, which is funny. Because I also saw them on the Gojira tour. This EP I probably put the top somewhere at the top of B.
I do like a middle A.
I want a middle S.
All right, well, so that we're doing the butt end of fucking A tier, I guess. All right, all right. That is all the metalcore albums, and there would be some tweaking I would do, obviously, but overall I would probably agree here. Um, what about you guys?
I think it's pretty good. I think.
Some
But
compromises were made.
yep.
Mhm.
um,
This is all just averaging out where we would place
I'm
the
trying to
albums.
think what my biggest disagree here is.
Probably,
Probably Quiet Place to Die and B.
yeah.
If I had to pick one hard disagree, that is my hard disagree. Yeah, I don't have any big grapes though.
All right. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and thanks guys for being here.